Good evening, everyone, and welcome, particularly the families of our award recipients. I know it's a very proud moment for you and for them. This evening, as National Police Week comes to a completion, we recognize those members of the Tuckahoe Police Department who, through their intelligence, dedication, and courage, have distinguished themselves amongst their peers and before our community. It sometimes takes ceremonies like this to rekindle our gratitude for the men and women of law enforcement. We take a moment to appreciate the many talented and dedicated members of our department whose service is worthy of praise. I congratulate each and every award recipient for their deserving recognition. I'm very proud of the fine tradition of policing that each of them exemplifies. Congratulations to each of them and to their families. I'd like to now introduce our mayor, John Fitzpatrick.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us this evening, the families and everybody else at home in Tuckahoe on the TV. We gather here every year to hear about all of the hard work that the police department does. So I want to say congratulations to all the officers on behalf of the village board who's joining me here today, and good work, and keep up the good work. We look forward to another year and another group of interesting stories by the lieutenant here, who will tell you how each one of these officers received their award. So congratulations to everybody. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I would just like to say, as the patrol lieutenant, I am very proud of the men and women of the Tuckahoe Police Department. And while you may not hear a lot of the things that happen here in the newspapers or see it on TV, they do work very hard for the residents of the village. And tonight we have a few outstanding incidents that we would like to honor the officers for. What I'm going to do is call the names of the officers receiving an award, and they will come up to the front and stand here while I read the award. They will then get their awards. At this time, Officer Magaletti and Officer Zarelnik, who I both know couldn't make it tonight, but I will read the award so that everybody knows what had happened. On January 21st, 2009, at around 9:30 p.m., the desk officer received a call from Eastchester PD advising that they just experienced an armed robbery at the Blockbuster Video Store on White Plains Road. The description was 3 males wearing ski masks with one armed with a handgun. The suspects fled in a car and left in an unknown direction. Officer Phil Magaletti immediately began to check the surrounding streets, while Officer Zarelnik, who was nearby, responded to the robbery scene. Officer Zarelnik was able to quickly gather important information about the suspects, their vehicle, and their direction of travel, and dispatch it to the other police units. Officer Magaletti, while driving west on Fisher Avenue, came upon a vehicle matching the description of the suspects, being stopped by an Eastchester PD unit. Officer Magaletti jumped out of his vehicle, drew his firearm, and assisted the Eastchester PD officer with the felony car stop. The 3 suspects were taken out of the car, with one of them taking off running on Columbus Avenue. The Eastchester officer gave chase of that suspect, and Officer Magaletti was left with the other 2 suspects. Officer Magaletti ordered them to the ground and was shortly joined by another Eastchester PD officer to help with the 2 suspects. A large search for the fleeing suspect was started as Officer Magaletti and the Eastchester officer secured their 2 suspects and searched the vehicle. During the vehicle search, Officer Magaletti located a loaded Ruger handgun, 3 ski masks, and the proceeds from the robbery. For his quick thinking and performance of a police duty in an outstanding manner, Officer Zarelnik is awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. For his role in intelligently and the line of police duty, performing an act of exceptional police work involving personal risk of life, which includes the apprehension of armed suspects and the recovery of a handgun, Officer Phil Magaletti is awarded the department's Exceptional Merit Award. Just like to give This time, I'd like to call up Detective Batista, Officer Lawrence Rhoda, and Officer Stephen Leone. Detective Batista was unable to be with us tonight due to a family obligation. On February 18, 2009, at around 6:10 p.m., Eastchester Police Department put out a hotline message that the county PD, along with the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency, was attempting to stop a vehicle in Eastchester for a narcotics investigation. The vehicle and driver's descriptions were put out to the Tuckahoe patrol units to be on the lookout. Several moments later, Eastchester PD put out a radio call that they were in pursuit of the suspect's car south on White Plains Road. Detective Batista, who was working patrol that night, headed to White Plains Road and Winter Hill Road and witnessed the pursuit pass him, going south. Detective Batista followed the pursuit as it continued down White Plains Road and then turned east on North Road in Bronxville. The Eastchester PD units, along with the units from the Federal Drug Task Force, stopped the suspect's vehicle on North Road and attempted to place him under arrest. Detective Batista assisted with the arrest effort that almost ended tragically. The suspect's vehicle, which was blocked in by police vehicles, was able to ram himself free and then drove up the lawn of a private home. While the suspect was driving on the lawn, a task officer fell down and was almost run over by the suspect's vehicle. The officers began searching the area for the suspect, but were unable to turn their cars around quick enough to catch up to the suspect's fleeing vehicle. Several minutes later, the Tuckahoe Police Desk received a 911 call from a resident who stated that they just observed someone jump out of a vehicle on Winslow Circle and begin running through other residents' backyards. The information was put out and all the officers converged on the area around Winslow Circle. The vehicle on Winslow Circle was confirmed to be the suspect's vehicle, and a large perimeter was set up to search for the suspect. Officer Leone was able to find footprints in the snow leading away from the vehicle, and along with an Eastchester PD canine officer, began to track the footprints through backyards. Officer Leone repeatedly radioed his position and direction of travel, which helped the other officers to focus their attention more thoroughly. While this was going on, Officer Rhoda was in his patrol vehicle and drove north to attempt to circle back and cut off the suspect's escape. While on Prospect Avenue, Officer Rhoda observed a white Mercedes parked at the curb with its lights on and the engine running. While driving up to the vehicle, Officer Rhoda observed someone run out of the nearby bushes and jump into the back seat of the Mercedes. The Mercedes then quickly drove east to White Plains Road and then north on White Plains Road. Officer Rhoda quickly called out the information and other officers started on their way to his location. The Mercedes turned east on Highland Avenue and Officer Rhoda initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle. Officer Rhoda began to set up a felony stop when a person jumped out of the back seat and fled the vehicle. The suspect ran west on Highland Avenue towards Main Street and Officer Rhoda began a foot pursuit of the suspect. Officer Rhoda frequently called out his direction of travel, which allowed the responding officers to quickly come and aid him. At Main Street and Jackson Avenue, the suspect was surrounded by numerous officers and after a violent struggle was taken into custody. The suspect was charged with numerous crimes in federal court, which included distribution of steroids and assaulting, impeding, and interfering with officers in the performance of their official duties. He was recently sentenced to 63 months in a federal prison for his actions. The in-car video from Detective Batista's patrol car ended up playing a very important part in the conviction of the suspect. Detective Batista also helped Bronxville PD detectives secure and process the scene where the task force officer was almost run over. For his outstanding and efficient performance of police duties during the initial vehicle pursuit and processing of the crime scene, Detective Batista is awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Certificate. For his quick thinking and efforts in the initial foot pursuit of the suspect, Officer Leone is awarded the department's Certificate of Commendation. And for his act of an outstanding police duty, intelligently performed and demonstrating special faithfulness during the pursuit and eventual capture of the suspect, Officer Rhoda is awarded the department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. Hold on, Larry, I have a... Here you go, Larry. Congratulations. Steve. If I can at this time have Detective Pinto come to the front, please. Detective Lieutenant Ferry and Detective Batista are also being honored for this award. Detective Lieutenant Ferry is unable to attend tonight. On February 27, 2009, at around 9:15 p.m., the desk officer received a 911 call from the Main Street convenience store requesting the police. The caller stated that a female just ran into the store yelling that her vehicle was stolen with her young daughter in the car. Officers responded and immediately radioed the important details out to the surrounding police agencies. Tuckahoe officers conducted a search for the vehicle while Officer Ramirez interviewed the complainant. At 9:20 p.m., a Bronxville police officer advised that he located the stolen vehicle on Midland Avenue in Bronxville. The missing youth was located unharmed in the vehicle and was immediately united with her mother. During all of this time, the Tuckahoe police officers continued their investigation, and Officer Anthony Solano was able to gather information about a possible suspect. I'm sorry, can I have Officer Solano up front too? Sorry, Aunt.
It's all right.
Officer Solano notified Detective Lieutenant Ferry about the information, and the other two were able to agree that the suspect sounded like a local man that the officers had previous dealings with. The detectives were then able to complete a photo array using a picture of the suspect and showed it to the female victim. The female victim did pick out the suspect from the photo array, confirming the officer's suspicions about who may be responsible for the crime. Detective Batista and Detective Andrea Pinto located the suspect and brought him into headquarters for an interview. The two detectives were able to get the suspect to confess to the crimes, and the suspect was charged with multiple crimes. The day after the crime, the victim came to headquarters and spoke to Sergeant Stephen Kleika about her pocketbook being stolen from the car the night before. While she was not concerned with most of what was in there, she was extremely upset about the loss of Jonas Brother concert tickets that she purchased for her children. During his confession the night before, the suspect denied taking any property from the vehicle. Sergeant Kleika then took Officer Solano and scoured the area surrounding the suspect's residence. Sergeant Kleika and Officer Solano checked wooded areas, garbage cans, and dumpsters. Sure enough, Sergeant Kleika located the victim's purse hidden at the bottom of a dumpster, located very close to the suspect's residence. Most of the victim's missing items were located in the purse, but her wallet with the concert tickets was missing. Sergeant Kleika and Officer Solano thoroughly sifted through the dumpster's contents, but cannot locate the wallet. The suspect had come back to village court for a hearing, and Sergeant Kleika confronted him about the missing wallet. The suspect did eventually tell Sergeant Kleika that he took the victim's property and that the wallet might be found in the basement of his apartment building. Sergeant Kleika and Officer Solano then went to the basement and conducted a thorough search. Sergeant Kleika then found the wallet in the rear of the basement, hidden among a bunch of boxes. Inside the wallet were the victim's credit cards and the concert tickets. The property was taken back to headquarters, and the victim got her concert tickets back in time for the concert. The suspect pled guilty to grand larceny 4th degree and unlawful imprisonment 1st degree, and was sentenced in state prison for 2 to 4 years. For their outstanding and efficient investigation ending in a confession and conviction, Detective Lieutenant Ferry, Detective Pinto, and Detective Batista are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. For their outstanding efforts in the initial identification of the suspect and finding and returning the victim's property, Sergeant Kleika and Officer Solano are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. Congratulations. If I can have Officer Kennedy please come to the front, and Officer Zaki. Officer Kennedy is on bicycle patrol tonight in his very colorful uniform. On Sunday, April 12, 2009, at around 2:10 a.m., Officer James Kennedy was on patrol on Main Street and Yonkers Avenue. Officer Kennedy observed two males driving golf carts and immediately went to investigate. Officer Kennedy called out his situation, and Officer Zaki was immediately sent to assist. As Officer Kennedy approached the two males, they jumped out of the moving golf carts and took off running. Officer Kennedy immediately gave chase and radioed that he was in foot pursuit. Officer Kennedy followed one of the males up and over a chain-link fence at 21 Scarsdale Road and chased him for several minutes. Officer Kennedy located the male trying to hide under a parked vehicle and ordered the suspect to give himself up. The male jumped up and began running again and scaled another chain link fence, with Officer Kennedy in close pursuit. Officer Kennedy was then joined by Officer Zaki in the foot pursuit, and they chased the male across the Elm Street ramp and into the wooded area adjacent to the Bronx River Parkway. The officers located the male several minutes later, hiding in bushes, and placed him under arrest. After further investigation, it was discovered that the males had stolen the golf carts from the Leewood Country Club earlier in the night. Inside the golf carts, the officers located numerous items, which included an iPod, cameras, and a Trek bicycle. It was later discovered that all these items had been stolen out of numerous vehicles in Yonkers the same night during car break-ins. For his role in locating, chasing, and catching the suspect and recovering the stolen property in an act of an outstanding police duty intelligently performed, Officer Kennedy is awarded the department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. And for his role in assisting in the incident in an outstanding and efficient manner, Officer Zaki is awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. If I can have Sergeant Margaret Bellis, Officer Anthony Solano, and Officer Ramirez, please. July 24, 2009, at around 4:10 a.m., off-duty officer Sergeant Margaret Bellis was awakened by noises outside her home. She looked out the window and observed a group of 4 persons near her neighbor's garage. One person in the group was on a bicycle, and she observed the rest of the group enter her neighbor's garage and exit with another bicycle. The group then left, going towards the Parkway Oval Park. Sergeant Bellis immediately called headquarters and ran down into the street after the group. Sergeant Bellis observed the group enter the Parkway Oval as Officer Ramirez and Officer Solano arrived on scene. Sergeant Bellis ran up to the group and identified herself, grabbing the 2 persons on foot. The 2 persons on bicycles took off into the park, and Officer Ramirez chased one person as Officer Solano chased the other. After a brief pursuit, both officers caught their people, and the 4 were taken into custody. While in headquarters, it was observed that all the suspects had what appeared to be red paint on their hands. Officers checked the surrounding areas and located numerous locations along the Metro North tracks that appeared to have been tagged with red spray paint. When confronted about the spray paint, the suspects admitted to tagging the areas along the tracks. A check of both bicycles revealed that they were both stolen, and they were returned to their owners the next day. For her quick thinking, apprehension of suspects, and outstanding off-duty response, Sergeant Margaret Bellis is awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. For their quick response, apprehension of suspects, and outstanding police performance of police duties, Officer Ramirez and Officer Solano are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award also. Congratulations. If I can have Detective Pinto, please. On November 5th, 2009, around 9:05 p.m., a female came before the police desk reporting that she was just robbed by 2 men at gun and knife point. The officers immediately interviewed the victim, and it was determined that she was on Midland Place when the incident occurred. The officers searched the area but did not locate the suspects. The detectives took up the case and started an investigation into the incident. Through a thorough and exhaustive investigation that took several months, a local suspect was identified by the Detective Division. After the suspect was identified, a search warrant was obtained and executed with the assistance of the Tuckahoe Eastchester Pelham Emergency Response Unit. The suspect was taken into custody by the Emergency Response Unit and was found to be in possession of a knife. The knife that was determined to be the one used in the robbery was recovered in the suspect's home. The suspect was eventually charged with robbery first degree and criminal possession of a weapon. The suspect was indicted by a grand jury on all charges and is currently in the Westchester County Jail awaiting trial. For their complete and thorough investigation performed in an outstanding and efficient manner, Detective Lieutenant Kevin Ferry, Detective Andrew Pinto, and Detective Abe Batista are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Officer Stephen Leone. While on patrol on December 12, 2009, at around 5:45 p.m., Officer Leone exited his patrol vehicle to do some foot patrol in the area of Sanford Gardens. While walking on Washington Street, Officer Leone observed what appeared to be a hand-to-hand drug transaction. Officer Leone quietly observed the possible transaction and then waited for the suspected buyer to walk away from the suspected seller. Officer Leone followed the suspected buyer and they confronted him about the encounter a few streets away. Officer Leone interviewed the individual and was able to determine that a drug sale did take place. The individual was arrested and taken back to headquarters where further information was gathered. Officers then did go out and arrest the suspected drug dealer for several charges, which included criminal sale of marijuana. For his initiative, keen observation skills, and performance of a police duty in an outstanding and efficient manner, Officer Leone is awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Certificate. Congratulations. And just a footnote on that, the suspect that Officer Leone arrested for that drug transaction turned out to be a robbery suspect, which we found out several months later. So, we definitely got the right guy off the street. Where'd Stephen go? The Tuckahoe Police Department's Officer Recognition Award for Outstanding Officer of the Year is given once a year to recognize patrol officers for their outstanding work within their positions. The nominees had to be dedicated to their job, the department, and the village of Tuckahoe. The officer must have demonstrated consistent professional performance at an exceptional level, be a team leader, possess solid character along with a work ethic in sync with the definition of our department's mission statement, which is to protect the quality in life in partnership with those we serve. The recipient of the Officer Recognition Award for the time period of January 2009 to December 2009 is Officer Stephen Leone. Officer Leone has shown to be a motivated officer who excels in productivity and takes a proactive role in initiating police activity. Officer Leone was the main or assisting officer on 38 arrests in 2009, with a large amount of those arrests being self-initiated. With that number, Officer Leone led the patrol division in arrests. Officer Leone also consistently appears at the top of the list in summons production. In 2009, Officer Leone applied for and was accepted into an assignment to the Emergency Response Unit. His growth into a highly successful and productive member of this department is a testament to his dedication to his profession, the village of Tuckahoe, and the Tuckahoe Police Department. Congratulations, Steve. Hey, Steve, hold on. The last award of the night is a unit citation. This year we're honoring the Emergency Response Unit. So at this time I'd like to ask Officer Roeder to come forward, please. Sergeant Cuccinello. Officer Leone is also part of the Emergency Response Unit along with Detective Batista. The Tuckahoe Police Emergency Response Unit was established in 1999 and has operated and trained as a joint special weapons and tactical team with the Eastchester Police Department since its inception. More recently, the villages of Pelham and Pelham Manor have joined the multi-jurisdictional team. The unit has met the new National Tactical Officer Association strict standards. The team has trained with tactical units throughout Westchester County. Unit members have received specialized training from the National Tactical Officers Association, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the FBI, the New York State of Criminal Justice Services, and many other organizations and law enforcement agencies. The extremely motivated members of this unit are to be commended for their hard work and dedicated service. They spend countless hours of training and preparation for the high-risk, critical tasks that they are prepared to be put into at a moment's notice. They continually broaden their skills and maintain their state of readiness to address a tactical response. to critical incidents such as hostage situations, barricaded subjects, high-risk warrant service, and any other circumstances where there is a likelihood of armed resistance. And we'd just like to thank the dedication that these men have put in. It's a volunteer thing that they go for, and the unit's been very successful. That's it. And now I'll turn it over to Mayor Fitzpatrick for a few closing remarks.
Good.
I'll turn it over to Chief Costanzo for some closing remarks.
We're very proud of all the award recipients, as well as every member of the police department. A lot of these things go unnoticed. Often it takes a ceremony like this to bring to light all of the hard work that they do. So we're very appreciative of that, and we congratulate every single one of the members that received the recognition tonight. That concludes the ceremony. There's some coffee and donuts out front here, and thank you all for coming.
He's already gone. He's off, like he's off, like.